Okay, the meeting is now being recorded.
Okay, so the meeting, we're calling the meeting to order. My name is Sherry Takamoto. I am co-chair on the Developmental Disabilities Committee. I'll ask my co-chair to introduce herself, and then we'll go down the participant list and ask folks to identify themselves, especially if you are a voting member of the DD committee. So, Bertra?
Hi, Bertram McGann, co-chair and a member of the DD committee.
Great. And Bertra, the third member on this committee who's also a member of the CSB is Joe. I'm going to ask you, Joe, we have a non-voting member, Joe Clem, but we also have a voting member, Joe Albert. So Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Joe Albert. Sherry kind of gave my name away there. And I'm on the CSB committee as well.
Okay, and now I'm going to go down the list of participants at this second. There are 22 of us. So the first one is Ann Dollaher.
Hi, yep, Ann Dollaher. I'm a parent.
Great, thank you, Ann. Barbara? Barbara, you're on mute.
Sorry, Barbara Jones. I'm a member of the committee and also a parent.
Great, thank you. Diane Monig?
Hello, I'm Diane Monig. I'm with the ARC of Northern Virginia.
Donna?
Hi, Donna Budway, member of the committee and a parent in Arlington.
Great. Ginny?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Conroy. I'm the founder of Social Grace. I'm an Arlingtonian, and I am the proud sister of a 37-year-old young adult with an intellectual disability. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Keila? Am I saying that right, Kaliga? Gray?
Haley.
How you doing? I'm Kalea Gray. I'm Senior Program Manager at the Woodmont Center in Arlington.
Excellent, thank you. Other Joe? Joe Clem?
Hello, I'm Joe Clem. I am a member of the committee, parent of a 29-year-old with developmental disability in Arlington, and also a member of the CSB.
Great, thank you, Joe. Josue?
Hello, everyone. My name is Josue, and I work for our stomping ground. Just listening in to learn more.
Great, thank you. Santige?
Yes, hello, everyone. My name is Santige Kagbo. I work for Community Residencies.
LaVoice doesn't need introduction, but she can if she likes.
LaVoice Reed. I'm on staff here with the Department of Human Services, and I also serve as the staff liaison to the DD committee in my role.
Linnea?
Hi, I'm Linnea. I'm a parent.
Great. Lucia?
Hi, Lucia Cluster, also a parent.
Lucy?
Lucy Beednell with the ARC of Northern Virginia.
Thank you, Lucy. Lynn Cosma?
Lynn Cosma, and I'm a parent and I'm a voting member of the committee.
Thank you, Lynn. Margot?
Hi, everyone. My name is Margot Greenlee. I am the executive director of our stomping ground here with Donna and Josue.
Welcome. Leslie? Leslie Meyer? We can't hear you, Leslie, even though your mic is off. On, I'm sorry.
She must have stepped away.
Okay. Michelle, so nice to see you.
Hi, good afternoon. Michelle Atrecchiano with MVLE.
Great. Amanda?
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Smedley, and I'm the Director of Service Source of our Day Program Service.
Wonderful. And then Kay.
Good afternoon, Kay Tiernan. I'm a parent non-voting member.
Wonderful. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Did I miss anybody?
Now, Sherry, can I just mention something just so Bertram doesn't feel overwhelmed in having to take minutes tonight? So because this is being recorded, Bertram, we can either I or we can have a staff member go back and watch the recording to take minutes. So you don't need to take minutes today. We'll figure it out on our end. But thank you. And if I can just give a special welcome to our guests today from our stomping ground. It's great to have you.
Great. And as well as Michelle from MVLE and Santigue. Santigue, is this your first meeting with us?
Yes, it's my first meeting.
Great. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you,
So,
Sherry.
so first on the agenda are public comments. Is there anyone here who would like to provide public comment? Okay, this next is the December 2023 minutes. I want a special shout out to Bertra, who made sense of those minutes and in a short period of time. And I'm wondering if there are any corrections to the minutes. If not, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Donna Budway, so moved.
Do I have a second? Wonderful, Bertra. Maybe you'll have to keep this up.
After
There
that
are no-
entree, nobody was going to say anything about the minute. But I hate to even say that because now that's in the minutes.
Okay, at that, I would like to ask Lucy, who has been extremely busy, to give us an update from the ARC and our General Assembly session. I think you have some great news for us.
Yes, I am going to share a few things here.
Well, Voice, can you give her permission to share?
No, the sharing part is working. It's just not showing me the PowerPoint window that I wanted to share. So I'm going to just share my entire screen and then we'll pull it up that way. So can you all see the PowerPoint slides now? Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah, I can see them.
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and get rolling. Like Sherry said, I'll share a little bit about what's going on with General Assembly. I'll cover a fair amount somewhat quickly, but a lot of this are things that we've talked about before, and I can also answer your questions. As a quick reminder, every year General Assembly has a little bit of a different feel. So here's some of the things to definitely keep in mind as we go into session in 2024. One of those is that a lot of the things that came out in the House budget and the Senate budget and agreed last year that should have ended up in the final budget didn't. So part of what we and many other groups are focusing on this year is going back to sort of clean up those things that were, in my words, accidentally left out. The other thing to keep in mind is Virginia does our budget in 2-year cycles. This is year 1 of the 2-year cycle, meaning it's a budget year. Session will be 60 days long as opposed to 45. So all things being relative, this is the long session. And it means there's lots more talk about money things since we're setting the 2-year budget, and next year we'll just make tweaks in the final year. Out of 100 total delegates in the state, 34 of them are completely new. Out of 40 senators in the state, 17 of them are new. For some perspective, most of them had been in elected office, including as a delegate before, but that is just to share a lot of our legislators are completely new in their role. So everyone is doing their best to learn quickly. In both the House and the Senate, Democrats have a slight majority, which matters because it means they'll control committees, which has a lot of power to decide which legislation is heard when. Our budget from the governor was released toward the end of December, and the governor puts forth a budget proposal, and then the House and the Senate can say, oh, I don't like this part, I want to add in that part. They can adjust from it, but it really is the foundation on which our budget is built. So things that are in that foundation budget are much easier to hold on to than saying, hey, take something out of that foundation and add something new in. In a session that's only 60 days long, legislation has 30 days to make it out of the House and the other 30 days to pass through the Senate and vice versa. So legislators have about 30 days to look at what's probably going to end up being a little more than 2,500 pieces of legislation, which I say to mean things go very, very, very fast. So I'll highlight some things on which we're leading. If people want to put a bug in our ear about other things that they know about, please let us know. Today, like I said, I'll talk a little bit about our legislative items and items that I know some of our partners are carrying, but feel free to jump in. I'm going to talk about some of the advocacy work that's already started this year, as well as some upcoming opportunities to get engaged. So our budget priorities, like I said, this is a budget year. It's a big year to talk about spending money. One of those is funding the DD waiver waiting list, and that's something we've talked a lot about on this committee. Right now, there are just over 15,000 people across the whole state waiting. About 3,400 of those people in the state are on priority one, meaning they're waiting in a state of crisis. The governor's budget put forth money in this 2-year budget to fund every single one of those people in priority one, which is tremendously exciting. That doesn't mean we don't have to worry about it. We have to fight to keep that money in the budget, but it's a lot of money, more than $300 million. And so the message of keep it in the budget as opposed to take $300 million from someone else and add this into the budget is an easier one to deliver. This is a huge deal for DD services, and it gives an opportunity not only to help people in crisis, but to look at the rest of the waiting list, which we haven't been able to do in a tremendous period of time, and to look at those other folks and say, what we've been talking about for years, what do you all most need? Because we know a lot of the waiting list are young kids. A lot of the waiting list, even as adults, don't want traditional 24/7 group homes or day programs. What they need is some respite care, maybe some case management or attendance in their house, some of those services that are really inclusive and cost a lot less money. So we're going to be looking hopefully this year at a study to see how do we take care of the rest of that waiting list and ideally get Virginia to a place where you either get a little of service when you need little and then move to a lot when you need a lot, as opposed to what we have now, which is you get absolutely nothing until you're in active ongoing crisis, and then you can flip to getting a full waiver. So we're going to be talking a lot about making sure that people aren't waiting in crisis, in short, is a lot of what this says. Another big concern I know we have talked about in this committee is a lack of provider capacity, meaning when someone gets a waiver, they still may not be able to find a provider that's the right fit for the service they need. Either they can't find a provider at all, or they're not able to hire staff. So since a lot of the new waivers that have come out in recent years and that the governor has proposed are those family and individual supports waiver that don't fund a group home, but they do fund supported living, we'd like to make sure the supported living rate is reasonable. In fact, matched to a group home rate so that people can really find service providers. We want to make sure that new businesses have money to start up or to expand their services if they're expanding in areas where we don't have very many service providers. We want to make sure that our peer mentors, people with disabilities, helping other folks with disabilities navigate things, are well funded. And I did want to note that though this isn't an ARC budget amendment, we are definitely supporting it. There's a push by some of the service provider community for an 18% increase on waiver services, funding increase on waiver services. That's a huge amount of money. There is no doubt our service providers need it. So just so you know, there's lots of talk going on this year about not only reimbursement rates, but waiver slots as well, and making sure that we're taking care of both of those needs. We can't really have one without the other. I'll talk now about some more legislative items that aren't so much about spending money, but are about making change. One of those is to make sure that if you're someone with a DD waiver who is working that for the first time ever, you could enroll in a program called Medicaid Works. Medicaid Works has been around for years, and it's been really successful at helping people who need Medicaid stay in Medicaid, even though they're earning more than Medicaid usually lets you do, because we want to incentivize people to work. But in the past, DD waiver users were barred from entering that program. So the request here is pretty simple. It just says, if you're a DD waiver user and you're working, and that work income would usually kick you out of waiver eligibility, instead you could enroll in this program called Medicaid Works, which means you'll have a copay each month to stay in Medicaid, but you can keep all the waiver services that make sure you have what you need in life. There is a similarly related bill that addresses a similar need from Delegate Shin that looks at waiver eligibility. And I know we talked about this recently in this committee, that when people with disabilities have waivers and their parents retire, part of the income that person with the disability gets each month is based upon the retirement amount their parent is claiming through Social Security. And when their parent passes away, they get an even higher benefit amount through Social Security. For some people, that Social Security income makes it impossible for them to keep working because it puts them so close to the waiver income cap. For other people, just the money they get through their parents in Social Security retirement is enough to kick them off the waiver entirely. So Delegate Shin has a bill that says, hey, when we're talking about who's eligible for the waiver, let's not use that SSDI money against them. They can't turn it down. It came from their parents working, and no one should have to quit their job or lose their waiver because their parents retired or passed away. Moving on, this is another one that's been a big topic in this committee, and that's making sure that if people with disabilities and their family caregivers need to participate in meetings like this, work groups, boards, commissions, advisory groups, all those kinds of places, and they need to do that remotely because of their disability or because of caregiving for someone with a disability, that's okay. They should be able to do that as much as they need virtually. They should be able to vote and count towards the quorum virtually if they need to. And this has been a bill that's been introduced several times, and I think it's gaining a fair amount of momentum. This year, it's been introduced by a lot more people and endorsed by more people. So I'm hopeful that will happen. It would give a lot more flexibility to groups like this. Another one that's come up for a few years in a row that I'm really hopeful about this year is access to make sure that people with disabilities can vote curbside. Right now, Virginia code says you can only vote curbside. That means pull up to the curb at the polling place and have them bring the ballot out to you if you're over 65 or have a physical disability. But we know lots of the disability community doesn't have a physical disability, but it's still hard to stand in that long line, to live or to wait in a large, echoey, really bright room, to talk to strangers and navigate that space. So this bill would allow anyone who needs it because of their disability to vote curbside. Often, poll workers grant that accommodation to try and be helpful and comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, but not always. So we do know this fix is needed. Another issue that we've talked about a fair amount here is flexibility for parent caregivers. For the point of this discussion, if you were a parent of an adult 18 and older who had a Medicaid waiver and you as the parent wanted to be that person's paid attendant, the person with the waiver wanted you to be the paid attendant, there was a path to make that happen. If your child with a waiver was under 18 though, that was never allowed, ever prior to the pandemic. It was allowed as a special flexibility during the COVID-19 health emergency. And now that that COVID-19 health emergency and flexibilities have faded away, our state agencies, Medicaid and DBHDS, have said, well, parents of minor children can still be paid attendants, but they put a lot of roadblocks up to making that happen. They said that parent can only work 40 hours per week, even if they had 2 or 3 kids in their house who used a waiver. So in some cases, they could work 20 hours a week for their child, even if their child needed full-time care. It made sure that parents could only do that if they were the last resort and you had to prove the parent was an appropriate caregiver, which is not how we generally treat parents or view them as caregivers. It made it really difficult to hire an employer of records to sign off on timesheets, because if one parent in the household was the employee, the caregiver, the other parent couldn't sign the timesheets. And a lot of us don't have other people who come to our house regularly and can oversee the care. And it took away all of the person's respite for an entire year. So if the parent was going to provide any caregiving hours, the waiver user lost 480 hours of respite and couldn't get them back. So there's going to be a bill going in to correct these issues that we're very excited about, to make flexibilities greater for parents who are paid caregivers of minors. Some other things that we know that are going on that I think will be of interest to this group are Delegate Cohen is putting forth a bill to make sure that when schools have fire safety and other kinds of evacuation plans, that those plans include making sure students with disabilities and their staff are evacuated, which seems like common sense, but I can speak at least for Fairfax County schools and say their plan says students with disabilities and their teachers and aides shelter in place in the event of any kind of emergency and wait for fire and rescue to come evacuate them from the building, which obviously doesn't hit us in a great spot. And so we are looking at correcting that. Another bill from Delegate-elect Cohen would allow people who use their waiver and have consumer-directed services, they choose who their caregivers are that come into their home, to be able to do some of their visits with those consumer-directed service facilitators virtually if they needed to. Instead of having one more person in your house quite as frequently, you could choose to do some of those visits virtually. It would just make it an option. There's a bill from Senator Boysko, sponsored by Virginia Autism Project, that removes the mandatory felony charge if you assault an officer, if you're someone with a disability or someone having a mental health crisis, and you don't even harm the officer. So this was kind of notoriously called the onion ring bill, right? An officer comes to arrest me and I'm frustrated and I throw an onion ring and it pings off their shoulder. Well, in the past, that was a mandatory felony with 6 months in jail, which is arguably not proportionate to the crime and doesn't take the disability into account. So variations on this bill have come forth a bunch of years, and I will certainly be supporting it on behalf of the ARC of Northern Virginia. There's also a budget amendment to allow residential staff, so for example, group home staff, to stay with someone in a hospital and get reimbursed for staying with them. I know this is something we've had some concerns about as a committee, and we know it's really hard for some people in our population to navigate staying safely in a hospital setting if there wasn't someone who knew them who could be there with them. This plan would provide some funding for those staff to be able to do that. So those are what we're talking about. And then the next question is, where are we talking about these things? So some of that has started already. Thanks hugely to this group, and we recognized our speakers at our last meeting who came out in in December and talked to the Arlington County delegation. They gave testimony for up to 2 minutes to talk about why these bills and budget amendments are really important. On January 3rd, we had more speakers from Arlington speak at a whole region-wide budget hearing, talking about how we wanted them to spend our state money. Last Saturday, the Fairfax delegation, which has some overlap with ours, also heard testimony from about 100 Fairfax residents talking about these same issues. And some legislators have done local town halls, meaning just on their own. Adele McClure did one virtually yesterday. Delegate Lopez and Delegate McClure and some other folks have another one coming up soon. So there's lots and lots of conversations going on. So it's a great idea to join in on those conversations. I'll talk about some of those opportunities. Some are, the ARC of Northern Virginia is organizing virtual meetings on Zoom with legislators at the General Assembly, January 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Those meetings will be 15 minutes long. If you know a legislator, if you're their constituent, if they're on a committee where a bill you're super concerned about is there, you were welcome to join in. We'll make those meetings open to anybody who wants to join, and we'll be talking with anyone who we can't see in person. So there'll be a fair amount of legislators we talk with on those couple of days. Another opportunity is coming up just next week, and the flyer for that is on the screen. We'll be asking people to drive themselves to Richmond on January 17th for a 1-hour outdoor rally. As you may recall, I mentioned a huge portion of our General Assembly is totally new. So the point of the rally is not only for us as a community to band together and support each other, but for there to be a show of force before those new General Assembly members so that they know the disability community is active, we are paying attention, we are engaged with session, and we are watching what they do. We will certainly be encouraging folks to drive down. If it suits you to be there that day, you'll just drive to Richmond. You would park near the rally and walk over to it. I'm happy to give people better directions than that if they're interested in coming. And then it's head back afterward. The rally is just an hour long and there's not anything else set up that day. And then the last big Richmond trip that we have planned is a bus from our office in Fairfax on Tuesday, February 6th. We will leave our office right at 7 a.m. and drive to Richmond. We'll have meetings for a few hours. We'll get introduced with legislators at session, and then we'll have lunch and head back. That's the very traditional day that the ARC of Northern Virginia has done, where we do lots and lots of meetings and it's really rapid fire pace and we're going in and out of offices handing out paperwork. If trips to Richmond either don't suit your schedule or aren't enough because you can't stop advocating, like I mentioned, there are lots and lots of local town halls. Some are in person and some are virtual, but it's Arlington area legislators just wanting your opinion, and they also want to share work about what they're doing. And going to events like those and just saying things like, can you tell me how you're helping people with disabilities this session? That's enough of a question. If you wanted to bring up something specific, like, are you making sure the waiver waiting list is funded or that we can hold our meetings virtually? More the better. That's great. But just going up and letting them know that you're there and you're listening about disability issues is a really big deal. If anyone wants help finding any of those meetings, let me know. And then we'll also be sending out emails throughout the course of the session, which aren't for visits at all, but just a chance to say, hey, something we really care about is going to be debated tomorrow. You have a quick chance to send just a few sentences off to your legislator. And we try and make it really easy. So if you just type in your address, an email will automatically generate that you can edit if you'd like and go into those legislators. So right before they take big votes, they're hearing from us about what's most important. And they know that the disability community wants them to vote for, or in some cases against something. Those were the big pieces that I wanted to share. And Sherry, I think I left some time for comments if we want to hear from folks.
Great. And Donna has already said that our Stomping Ground South advocates will stay for a walk and have lunch after the rally next week. So let them know if you're interested in doing that. And then the other thing, Lucy, when I spoke to you to prepare for this meeting, the February 6th rally is something that we used to do, or that the ARC used to do. It's a fun time to socialize, get on the bus, a thing to do. It's an integrated community program. It's legislative advocacy. There's a whole lot of things. It's just a fun thing to do. So we'd like to seriously ask folks to seriously consider taking the bus with the ARC and meeting other people, other advocates, watching your loved one in action as they exercise their voice. So if you're interested, please let Lucy know about that. So any questions about the legislation or other aspects for Lucy? Joe?
Hi. Yeah, one question from one of the earlier slides. One of the bullet points said that you were asking the legislature to match the group home rate with the caregiver rate or something like that, but I didn't quite understand what. The
supported living rate, yes. So for perspective right now, if you're in a group home, the smallest group home that there is would be 4 people. If you're in a 4-person group home versus a supported living environment, in both cases, you may get 24/7 staff, but in a group home, the fees and the staffing, whatever, are divided by the 4+ people in that home. In the supported living apartment or condo, it's only divided by the 1, 2, or 3 residents there. So per person, off the bat, they're getting less, and the supported living rate is 1/3 less than the group home rate. So as you can imagine, you've got fewer people to amortize costs over, and your base rate is so much lower that in the last 8 almost years since that service was introduced, I think we're down to 150 people across the whole state who've ever been able to try and access that service, and not even all of those are still in it. So the budget amendment just says, can we take those very, very few people in supported living now and bump them up to the same rate as that 4-person group home that might make that a viable residential service. It gets people what they want, 24/7 staff if they need it. It gets people with disabilities to have a lot of choice and customization about who their staff and housemates and location are. And it means that all of these families getting FIS waivers don't later have to worry about, when am I going to get a community living waiver if we need a real residential service and I'm not on call to be backup all the time. And so it tends to tick a lot of those boxes. And the big win here is the budget cost to do that is really low, because there are so few people right now in supported living. To say match that rate is something like $2.2 million or something like that, which in the scheme of a state budget is a small amount of money. Then that just means going forward, the General Assembly has to take into account, we may have more people who leverage this service, but to do what we're asking is a low cost, high impact item. And that's one of the things that we were pretty sure was going to be funded last year, until they ended up using, I'll call it an unprecedented way to craft the budget, and things kind of tumbled out real fast at the end. So that's something we're going back for this year, but it is a topic that legislators should be familiar with, that match supported living to the group home rate, because we've been talking about it for a while.
Thank you.
Other questions? In the regular DD committee update, if you're not receiving the updates from Bertra and I, please let us know, and let me just put your information in the chat and I'll add you to the mailing list. But in that, I also shared a tremendous video by Tanya Milling, who is the executive director of the ARC of Virginia, who just did a very compelling discussion about how 25 years ago, a newspaper article that she pulled up about why we are waiting, it's exactly the same today. And that the governor what the governor's done is unprecedented. They're finally saying, yes, we're going to put in the budget to fix the priority 1 wait list. So it's very, very bold. And this is the year that we can possibly make it happen. So everyone's voice is important. And this year is also a very good opportunity for those of you who are on this committee as parents to bring your person with a disability to practice their advocacy, because quite frankly, in my experience, the legislators are much more apt to listen to a person with a developmental disability than to one of us mom and dads. Joe, did you want to say something?
Yes. I wanted to ask and also kind of mention a general comment, and hopefully this is well thought out. I've been up for a bit, so I apologize. I definitely share the excitement over the governor's proposal on that. One concern I have is, last year there was definitely a lot of excitement over some of the proposals, and there was kind of what felt like it's kind of like that magic trick where you try to pull the tablecloth, with all the stuff on the table, and then you think it's going to work, and then everything kind of just flops over. And I'm curious if if there's any measures or any steps are being taken to make sure, and I know anything can happen, of course, in politics or legislature stuff, but any working with outside groups or other groups that to make sure that we can hold to this proposal or anywhere near close to this, because this is such a huge promise and such a huge opportunity. So because while I'm very hopeful, there is this element in the back of my head of that, could this happen again where you have all of this hope and then all of a sudden that tablecloth situation happens and you got Well, I'm very hopeful. I am definitely just wanted to, I was curious if anyone had any thoughts, or Lucy, what your thoughts were on that, and if that was shared in any concerns or apprehension from legislators or and how steps would be taken on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. I would say the good news is our legislators, even those that are new, have been beaten over the head with the waiver bat. They've been campaigning and either in office for years, right? They are, in a loving way, sick and tired of hearing that there's a waiting list that we don't have any way to address. And so this is a big chance for them. So I think, reasonably optimistic on that front. This is an issue they're familiar with and do want to address. Otherwise, I would note that I saw just a couple of hours ago, the autism societies across the state have this as one of their top legislative priorities. Virginia Network of Private Providers, which is the big provider lobbying organization, has this as one of their top priorities. Virginia Access, which is the other big provider organization, has this as one of their top priorities. And I've heard lots of families speak to this on their own. So I think our biggest threat to not getting those waivers would be if people were saying a waiver's not even worth anything because provider rates are so bad and there's no capacity. And we want to avoid going down that road, because that argument keeps taking our DD community and breaking it in half and making our waiver users fight against our waiver waiters. And we want to move everyone to the same team. And we also recognize that there's now a lot of data out showing that a lot of people on the waiver waiting list in priority 1 who would be getting these slots don't necessarily want group homes and day programs. They want in-home caregivers, and they may be hiring family and friends to do that. Some of them may not be, but it's not quite the same capacity argument as how do we put 3,400 more people into a group home. That's not the situation, right? So it's really strategically looking at how do we make sure we get these waivers when we can, and for those services where we know there's not enough capacity, how do we inject some money and some support into that community? But you're right, there's a lot of political dancing going along here.
So it
Joe,
sounds like the stuff with, oh, sorry.
No, Joe, I just love the vision, because that's exactly what it feels like a lot, where it feels like we're finally going to get it. It feels like we've done all the tricks and then someone pulls it out. The only other thing, from having been in the advocacy arena for so long, is that it also takes people who haven't necessarily gotten it. We can't just sit and say, okay, someone else is going to do it for us. And that's why the ARC keeps welcoming folks. I've seen one person trip everything in the favor of people with disabilities. One person, but it has to be the right person. And Lucy has been doing this for years, so they think they know Lucy and what her issues are. If we can get new people to come and be a part of the advocacy movement, particularly people with disabilities, I think that is a piece of the trick. And also, it's not waiting for Lucy or the ARC to carry our water for us, that we need to carry our own water to get to where we need to be.
But it sounds like, and those factors that you just mentioned, Lucy, those are, sound like very compelling factors then. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, at that, I'm going to turn things over to my co-chair, Bertra, because we have some priorities to share. Thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing this information with us. It's hard to keep track, and you make it so easy to understand.
Sherry, you're on mute.
Okay, I think I'm sharing the screen, Bertra. Is that right?
Right. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and go to the second slide because I just want everyone to have a chance to review it. Chair and I had several conversations just how to focus the work and the efforts of this committee, and recognizing that our input is solely in terms of guidance and advisement to the Community Services Board. I think we agree that we want to be intentional and that we want to be focused. We've got so many resources and so much passion among the parents and the providers and the vendors on this committee. I think we really want to exploit that. So in terms of the year ahead, I think based on the input we received, we received passionate public comment at our December meeting about transition, and no matter whether your person is in school or leaving school or just left school, there's a lot of concern about transition. And I think we can have consensus that this needs to be a priority of the DD committee. We've talked about getting more information out to parents earlier so that there's not this gotcha moment at the end where there's no housing, there's no plan going forward. I think also it's been demonstrated that the earlier we get parents focusing and engaged in the planning, the more likely our outcomes might be better. So I feel strongly about transition, and I think when you look at housing, that's a transition issue. You look at employment, it's all transition. So I think if we can just agree that we want to move the needle in terms of the quality of transition services, the collaboration in terms of developing transition services, so that we give our young adults a better shot once they're no longer under IDA mandate. I'm going to go quickly through, and please hold your comments, and we'll hopefully have time to discuss. Another priority, I think, has to be housing community living. We're not making this up. We're mandated by the courts to make sure that people with disabilities are not segregated, that are not secluded, but that they're living in inclusive communities, that they have access to community services, that they have an opportunity to engage with communities. I think that we have to use that as our North Star. I mean, it's aspirational. I think that we recognize that there is a need for communal housing. We recognize that it's the parent's choice what you feel is best for your child. But and at the same time recognizing that we want to see our young people thriving in an independent, inclusive setting. We have community partners like OSG on the line, on the call with us today. Social Graces does an amazing job building independence for community living, and so I just think that at every turn, we can agree that this is our goal. We don't want institutional living. We don't want communal living to be the default. Okay. Also, part of transition services is employment readiness. I think that Lucia's done an amazing job just keeping us focused on how to leverage the successes of the PEP program. I mean, there are parents on this call, including Lucia, who were instrumental in even setting up PEP, and now we need to make certain that that there's sustainability. Some parent mentioned that their kid did their best work. They were so enthusiastic. They were going to multiple work sites. They had a lot of support. We can't reinvent the wheel once the child leaves APS. There's got to be some way to sustain the gains that are made in PEP. There needs to be greater collaboration. And that's something that I think we as a committee can prioritize and see some improvement. And another thing, I think there's the fourth point I think everyone can see is we want options for our young adults in Arlington County. We want employment options in Arlington County. We want meaningful day options. This notion of getting in a van and going across county lines, I think while it's needed and it's providing great service to those families who require it, I think in terms of where we want to go is we want a situation where all of the opportunities and services for our young adults are available in Arlington County. And I think to some extent, this just needs to be stated as a priority. I had a conversation, employment related, about getting a young man with a disability employed. And the response I got from the county staff was, this hasn't been made a priority. There needs to be a statement from on high so that when we encounter a county person, say, hey, what do you think about employing a person with a disability? It's not like the first time they've ever heard it. You follow me? We need to create this dialogue so that the question, would it be possible for a person with disabilities to be employed here, is not met with a just disingenuous response. Okay, and so I think that if we can have this conversation, TAC has done an amazing job just explaining that there's a framework, it can work. I think we need to really rally our allies around the priority, which I hope the committee adopts, is to make sure that Arlington County provides meaningful work. Arlington Public Schools provides meaningful work. We can't go back and change anything that has happened. And believe me, to remain in a good place, I think going forward, we can certainly explain, well, things didn't happen in the past that may have been beneficial and useful to some of the children on this call. But I think going forward, we can certainly seek to get consensus that we can certainly provide meaningful work. We can provide meaningful day programs. We can provide safe and inclusive communities for these beneficiaries of the Arlington Public Schools. Just quickly, the advocacy points, Lucy, I'm so glad we weren't so far off the mark. We mentioned SSI, and I've made a list of all the others, but these are kind of the standing points that we just must have. We must fix these two things, and not diminishing the others, but if in the interest of space, I thought we want to keep everyone focused on the SSDI and Medicaid waiver issue. So Chair, I've turned it over to you in case I've missed anything, but and then open it up to the members of the call for discussion. Thank you.
Okay, this is Sherry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'd rather clean up, Bertrand, because I think you've done a nice job of putting our priorities together, and I'm most interested in hearing from people who are on this call, whether you're a quote voting or non-voting member of this committee. And I cannot see, I can't keep this slide up and see who's in line, so someone else is going to have to call for anyone who's raised their hand.
Okay, I don't see a hand up, but I'll try to monitor it.
So I can, if Bertrand, if you like, I can go and talk about some specific ways that we think we can be involved.
I had a
Yeah, there's a hand up, sorry.
Am I
Go
allowed
ahead.
to? Oh, sorry. I appreciate many of the priorities. I am wondering how each one of these will be each one of these list or each one of these goals per se, or these set priorities, how we track or achieve these set priorities over time, because or what do we perceive, as overall success in like with for instance, like the Arlington County, including Arlington County aspect, how do we get from point A to point B there, and how do we well, yes, I'm sorry. As I said, I've been up for a very long time today, so I apologize. So that's kind of been a question lingering on my mind, and I even kind of talked it over with my dad this morning of trying to figure out how to ask about this. If that makes sense.
Yeah, Joe, that's a great question, and it's something that I think we should focus on is moving some of these topics from the anecdotal to actual operational. And I think that in terms of transition services, we've already had informal conversations with the transition team. They're not happy with the outcomes, which is parents are not happy. So we're developing a cheat sheet so that at every stage of the disability life cycle, we can inform parents what needs to happen. Building community. From 0 to 3, you're getting a diagnosis. What happens after then? The PI program presentation last month was excellent. We want to just create a one-pager with links, a quick list, so that by the time parents are at age 18, they realize that, wow, we should be on the DD waiver list. We should have a community. We should have, build this community of support. We should inform ourselves of supported decision-making as an alternative to guardianship. There's so much information out there. And I think that it's great when parents can discuss among ourselves and take a look over the horizon as to what's coming up. It's also great to know at age 3, wow, this is going to be a long ride, and I need to stay diligent in terms of making sure that we and the child are prepared for what comes next, because in the throes of a diagnosis, you have no idea what you don't know, and I think that having a quick checklist would be helpful to everyone. So that's the transition services. In terms of housing, community living, we are, as I said, recognizing that group homes are here to stay. Arlington just built a beautiful group home, and what we're talking with some of the beneficiaries and supporters of group homes is maybe we can figure out a way to bring the community into the group home. The Irving Street property is within walking distance of OSG, and I've had conversations with the boys, and I said, oh my gosh, we can do movie nights here, and we can do all of these amazing things, because certainly it's in Arlington County's interest for that facility to benefit more than 6 people. All right, so I think that there are many ways to achieve community engagement. And we have to start with where we are, which is that some of our community are currently living in communal residences. So, Joseph, I think that based on your passion, we want everyone to get involved in this discussion. We want everyone to get involved in operationalizing these priorities. And just quickly, in terms of employment readiness, I'm glad you mentioned metrics. I've talked with Cherry and others. How will we know that we're successful? We need, it's beautiful that it exists. There's still a lot of planning in terms of identifying, who participates and whether it's a stagnant list or whether it's more organic. Making sure that the work that's being done there to prepare the young adults for work reflects existing jobs. And we're not in this hypothetical realm of, well, what if this happened? No, we've got a job at Panera Bread that requires these skills. So let's make sure that we have potential employees building those skills at that beautiful new facility in Arlington. Okay, so Joe, the other thing I want to mention is that this list isn't stagnant. We've certainly learned that things happen, and we have to be prepared to make adjustments and change. But I think that, mentioned Lucia's been very much a leader on the employment issue. I know, Joseph, you're interested in employment. I'm interested in this transition checklist because there's no need for continued generations of parents to be unprepared. And I think in developing the improved transition services, we'll address some of these other priority issues, including employment and day options. So thanks again, Joe. Cherry.
Joe, thank you for keeping us on target. And there are some areas that we've been that Bertrand and I have been discussing with Maimuna and LaVoice, that some of which move into the other agenda item for us. But in terms of the employment readiness and preparing people for existing jobs with identified employers, Maimuna has invited the committee to delegate folks to look at how are we going to evaluate the success of the new Employment Readiness Center. So we're looking for a couple of folks to participate with DHS to figure out what are the metrics. How are we going to know we're successful? What's moving here on that one. Community engagement. We also, one of the things that the DD committee can do is participate in potential RFPs. And so LaVoice has invited us. I'm not quite sure that Bertrand and I have the term for it, but has invited us to send a couple of delegates to a DHS effort to figure out how to get more community engagement options in Arlington. We also discussed with Maimuna delegating a couple of folks to serve to help in an advisory capacity for the day program expansion that was just awarded for for not only the CIC Woodmont Center, but also the 15 folks who will have community engagement opportunities through that contract, as well as the other, 35 or so slots in the 2 new facilities coming online. So continuing in discussions on that. And then the final is transition services. We discussed with Maimuna that as long as there's no more than 2 voting members of the Arlington DD committee, we can create our own work group around improving transition services and doing things like creating the cheat sheet that Bert was talking about, setting up meetings to go review PEP and review some of the Employment Readiness Center and to figure out ways of working things. In terms of employment, last month's PowerPoint presentation that LaVoice prepared for us, there is a job fair that DHS is planning this year. And as we identify potential employers like the Hyatt, like Panera, like the company that you folks, that someone just happened to walk into and say, hey, do you want to hire people with developmental disabilities? Let's be part of the solution. Let's get folks, let's get the details for the when and wheres and how of the job fair that DHS is planning, and connect employers so that they want to participate in that job fair. So let's see, instead of saying, oh, LaVoice, you should do this, LaVoice, you should do that. When are you going to do this? Why aren't you doing that? Bertrand and I are looking for ways that we can not get in the way of DHS doing what they are already, the wonderful things they're already doing, but partner with them so that what they're doing can be even more awesome. Does that make sense?
Yes. We've got one hand up. Donna Buckley's hand is up, and then we can talk about this again at another time. Donna?
We can move on. I just love your list. I think it looks great. I think it really captures what we've been working on. I know Lucia and Carol Skelly have been working on that transition piece. And because of that, that was kind of how we came up with this list that Bertra is going to lead. And also that I just wanted to update you that the transition team is going to come to Gilliam Place on Tuesday, and they're just going to bring everyone because they need the caseworkers, they need the people that are in the work to understand that there are these inclusive opportunities. And so they're going to just kind of come and take a look at the apartment, meet some of the residents. You know, Gilliam Place, which originally had 8 set-asides, now has 16 people here, people with disabilities that came in, a lot of them using the SRAP. So it's a very robust, kind of great proof of concept. So we're really excited about that. But thank you for your work. Yes, yes to employment. I do not understand why we don't have all of our guys working at these schools, in the libraries, in the cafeterias. Yeah. Like, you know, my mind is still spinning from the day. I don't know if it was LaVoice or how long ago it was when they gave us the line items for every month we were paying on every taxi route in Arlington County. I mean, as a taxpayer and a parent, my head exploded. Yeah, we need these guys walking to the work, using public transportation, going in groups. I'm so excited about the work ahead. And yes, the DHS staff, the APS staff, we are all working so hard. They are working so hard. I think we need to, let's get some results. We've said this for 25 years. If we cannot do it in Arlington, it cannot be done anywhere in the country. So I'm excited to be part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you,
Donna. So Bertra is going to lead the transition work group that will not be it won't be a DD committee meeting. It'll be with some members of the DD committee working on this transition, you know, looking at transition and making it work and helping families understand how to make it work. So we're looking for volunteers. You can put your hand up, you can sign up by putting your name in the chat, but we're looking for some volunteers to work with Bertra on this. We have Joe.
Good. No pressure to commit right now. I'll call you. Okay.
But we can only have, right? I was listening to Maimuna's reminder that we can only have 2 voting members. So if we have Bertra and we have Joe, then the rest has to be people that are not voting members, which is great. But just so we make that clear, that means the rest of us are off the hook for this committee.
the voting members, but
right.
We do, I mean, yeah, we're not twisting anyone's arm, but you know, Ann Donahue just finished all this work and leading a group of parents and understanding how, you know, what was going to be involved in going to the other side. Now that she is on the other side, you know, that would be helpful. Kay's person is attending the new Employment Readiness Center. And so, you know, what's going on there? How does that work? And we really need some help from folks. Lucia, you've just been really banging on the drum with this, and we want to let you know that we've heard you. We want to move in a positive direction, and you've been the lone link between PEP and this committee. So we really want to encourage as many folks, and Donna, if you want to help with the transition, you can be an alternate, and we could just make sure that no more than 2 of us are in that conversation at the same time. But we don't want to just say, oh yes, we're going to do something and then not do anything. Does that make sense?
Going to happen, Sherry. Okay, that's not going to happen.
Okay, so the community engagement, I think, Bertra, you were on that group, and I can't remember if there was ever anyone else that was in that
Sherry,
group.
actually, for clarification, that's for behavioral supports. There is no work group or planning for anything to do with community engagement at this time. So what I had reached out and what Bertra and Joe specifically had offered to be a part of as far as a work group and giving input to a scope of work is specifically for behavioral supports for a potential contract for that.
Okay, and so was Joe on that with Bertra LaVoice?
Bertra and Joe, correct.
Okay, and then there is no one assigned to expansion of day programs or evaluation of the Employment Readiness Center at this moment. And LaVoice, these were conversations that occurred. I'm not sure if you were a part of those conversations.
Kay Tiernan just said she'd be happy to give feedback on the ERP. Joe has volunteered, I believe, to work on transition. I think Donna has done amazing work with community engagement and community outreach, and we've got Social Braces on the call as well, which does amazing work in terms of building community. So I don't think we have to kind of finalize it, but we can reach out to you offline and see if we can get some interested parents to provide feedback and input into these important areas. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much so far. And next we have staff updates.
Okay, I can jump in, and apologies if you hear rain in the background. I'm actually in my car. So let's see, my first update, we are fully staffed, so I'm very pleased to report that. We onboarded last month our support coordinator vacancy. That was a position that was vacant when Carmel Burbano moved into the program manager position. So that's very exciting. I would also like to give an update on the Employment Access Program, which is the official name of the Employment Readiness Program. We officially opened the program on this past Monday with participants. Actually very exciting to actually see the staff and the participants in the space. Service Source continues to do assessments, kind of rolling admissions of people into the program. So we are, I think, at 4 people this week that started. We anticipate a 5th person starting next week. And then I think we have a 6th person that will be perhaps starting the week after, or 2 weeks, or in the next couple of weeks for that person to be started. So that's coming along as well. We did, as you know, that program has a capacity for 15 individuals. We are holding 3 of those slots at this time to prioritize for our FY24 graduates. So as we look to build capacity with both the Employment Access Program and the community-based slots, prioritizing those for our graduates for FY24. Speaking of the community-based program, we actually, Melissa and myself, we met with Service Source this morning, had a very productive meeting, and part of our agenda for that was to discuss moving forward with the referral process for the community-based slots. And so that ideally what we would like to see is that, by April, early May at the latest, those sooner than better, that our families know who's going to be attending, who's going to be accepted for those slots. One of the things that we're also asking Service Source.
LaVoice, I'm sorry, I just want to back up a little bit. when you move to community-based, are you talking about I don't know if this committee has been informed about the award. Are we talking about the award for the CIC Woodmont?
Yes, so let me back
Okay.
up. Yes, that's what I'm referring to. Thank you, Sherry. So that if that's not clear, when we did the the scope of the contract for the CIC for this year, we added two different things we actually added in the contract. We added 15 additional slots specifically for community-based day support to complement the existing 55 slots for center-based. We also added two additional satellite locations for the Community Integration Center that each of which would serve up to 22 individuals. That is specifically to target our long-term growth and expansion for day support. And the community-based slots were intended as a way by which to target more immediate short-term growth of individuals, particularly those that are coming out of Arlington Public Schools. However, there is also some consideration for people that are not in a day program or anything. There a handful of people that might be at home or just not in a program, of giving priority though to those individuals as well. So I'm referring to those slots specifically. We're also looking in terms of capacity for the city in general, as service source, to start identifying individuals that are at the existing CIC center days. Are there individuals there that would be interested in shifting to, well, it's like really pouring down here, guys. Apology. We're looking at shifting, not shifting, but are there individuals that are at the center base that would be interested in community base? Whether that is full-time doing community base or a hybrid version, maybe part-time center based, part-time community base. What that would actually do is potentially free up some slots for individuals that really need those center-based slots and can't. So we're just looking for some flexibility there, and Service Sources is actually of the same mind as well. So we basically have 55, 60, 70 slots that we're working with at the CIC. I will say too, we have with our current graduate students for this year, we have about 22 students, I believe, 22 students on the list, and that are aging out of services. And we have probably just under maybe, well, about a third of them that are looking at employment exclusively, and some of them with individual supported employment, and some of them that actually are not needing supports to be able to work. So we continue to see increases in our graduates from year to year of those that are really seeking employment first. So I think that's positive in terms of leading with employment. Of course, day support is always an option. And so we do have individuals that are looking at day support. And between the expansion that we recently did and launched with the employment access and the community-based slots, and hopefully some additional slots for community or center-based at the CIC, we are optimistic that we will be able to accommodate graduates in the county. Of course, there is choice, and so we do have some families who are specifically interested in non-county programs. So we have a couple of families that are looking at St. Coletta and MBLE and Melwood, and that's great, and we support and encourage that as well. And let's see, Irving Street. I'm also pleased to share there, the home is fully licensed by DBHDS. And so that setting, as you know, that is a new net zero group home, newly constructed group home that supports individuals with exceptional medical. And then we have the lower apartment that we will support a single individual for exceptional behavioral support needs. The home is licensed for respite. It is also licensed for a group home, and the lower apartment is licensed for supported living, a supported living setting. They continue to, Encircle is the provider. They continue to recruit for staff. And so that's coming along slowly.
LaVoice,
Yes.
are there any people that are actually placed there yet or
No,
identified as waiting for that?
Yep, I'm getting to that part. So if I can just finish with the recruitment real quickly. So the provider has hired a program manager for the home. Actually, he was previous program director with the Good Neighbor Homes group home, Brenda, who's going to be joining, or is with Encircle, and they have hired a few DSP staff. The big thing is hiring a nurse, given that this is a home for individuals with exceptional medical. We do need to have a full-time nurse on staff. So we are hoping, we're meeting with Encircle this coming Thursday. We've been meeting, Jennifer and I, meeting with them twice a month. And so we'll get some additional updates there where staffing is concerned. But we're hoping to have sufficient staffing so that we can at least start respite and offering respite to our families by March. And hopefully start to identify individuals that can move into the home. As of now, no, there are no individuals that have officially moved into the home because we don't have the staffing to be able to support that yet. We need, because as you may recall, we have a requirement to have 2 staff there at all times on all shifts. And so we're looking to have at least, 8 staff that can rotate amongst the 3 different shifts, and then having additional staff in the event, that somebody calls out. And then we also have to have the full-time nurse as well. They are going to be partnering with, or subcontract partnering with, the Alternative Paths Training School, which will be providing the supports to the individual in the lower level apartment for the exceptional behavior. So we're also excited about that as well. We have made 4 referrals for the apartment. So there are the individuals, they are actively doing the assessments, meeting with them. We're doing tours. I've actually done a couple of tours for families as well, for them to come and see the space. I know there are a couple scheduled for this coming Thursday there as well. So they have been doing, reviewing all of the referral packages. They've been doing assessments with the individuals and the families, and then conducting tours for families that are interested in considering the setting as well. So 4 referrals for the lower apartment, and then we've submitted 6 referrals for upstairs. As a reminder, we have 3 of the 4 bedrooms upstairs for Arlington County, and a 4th bedroom will be for a regional partner, Fairfax, Loudoun, Alexandria, or city of Prince William County will have the opportunity to also submit referrals, but we wanted to get our individuals situated and stable there first. And then, of course, the 5th bedroom at the home will be designated for respite only. Other updates, Maimuna, any updates that you can think about that we're doing, that are going on, that I may have missed, or questions?
No, I can't think of any. It's pretty comprehensive of what you provided. Thank you, LaVoice.
LaVoice, I just want to harken back to what Donna said at an earlier meeting. Donna, you're pretty wise about an observation that our programs are not necessarily what parents are looking for. So for the Employment Readiness Center and for the community access slots, those are still available to folks who have been in the community but haven't had what it is that they're looking for available yet. Is that correct, or
That's
no?
correct.
Okay.
That is correct. That is correct. So we, particularly for the employment access program, really trying to get that name out there, employment access. So for that particular program, we have definitely made referrals for our students that are aging out of IDEA services, as well as those that have been that transitioned, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. When we started making referrals, however, we did prioritize our graduates. And then once we were able to determine interests there, that we had ample space, we did open it up to others. But the basis of us really looking at building capacity is to ensure that we have capacity to absorb our students that are aging out of Arlington Public Schools. And so as we look to move people into these community-based slots, we are prioritizing graduates. And then as we get an idea of the referrals to that program, we anticipate that we'll have some additional slots, but we do need to start with prioritizing our students that are aging out, because we cannot have them sitting at home during critical transition years. So they are prioritized, but it doesn't mean that we won't get to a point where we will consider other referrals of individuals that are not actively transitioning. I don't know if that answers your question or
Yeah,
not.
it does. Thank you. And then you may not be prepared to answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway. How can Bertra's transition work group best help DHS as we look at the new graduates and what's coming online?
So I think that there are a number of ways that we can do that. And I'm actually excited about that, because it doesn't, it to some extent, I think it takes some pressure off of staff of sometimes, thinking and feeling that we, have to do everything, because it's a lot of work, and there certainly is enough and a lot, to go around for that. So one of the things that, we have been doing, and Del Bria, who's, I'll maybe have her perhaps come to the next meeting. I know some of you met her. She's been to a couple of our meetings, but she's been doing an amazing job working on some kind of marketing material, if you will, for developmental services. So we've got some great resources in terms of some one-pagers, brochures on the services that we do for support coordination, for employment, transportation, a variety of different things. And so getting that out, so being a sort of a voice, if you will, using the material that we've done, if there are ways and opportunities that we can partner. So one of the things mentioned is there's going to be, I think, something coming up next week at our stomping grounds. I know Del Bria will actually be there. We have some other staff there as well, and we'll bring some of the material that we have to be able to start sharing, but to get the material out into the community. So one of the things that we've heard is, what do we do? What are the resources? What are the services and the opportunities that are there once our students will age out of services? So we have some great material, that we can share, but getting that information out into the hands of people that actually need it as well. We're looking to partner, and I know Patricia's on the line as well, so she can speak to what they're doing this year differently. Maybe I'm putting Patricia on the spot, sorry. But doing something different than what, Arlington Public Schools has done in the past, where the big transition fair is concerned. So we're going to actually be doing a presentation. I think we're looking at March possibly, of doing something for developmental services to students and families that are transitioning out. And so if there's an opportunity to perhaps have some collaboration there, that would also be an opportunity to partner with that group as well. And then as we look to do other things in the community, if Bertra even identifies, different things and opportunities where it would be helpful and beneficial for staff to partner, for us to have one staff, representing at that, as much as we can get out into the community and in the faces and in front of our families, the better. We don't expect them to come to us, so we need to be able to go to them wherever that might be. So I think there are lots of opportunities to partner there. It is something that is a priority for us. It was one of the, I guess, the third wheel of the big study that we did back in 2021, where we looked actually at day support employment, and the third area was transition of our students. We have been in talking with Arlington Public Schools of really starting to try to identify students 2 years out. So we typically have been identifying students the year before they're aging out. And so really trying to do better there, and identifying students that are 2 years out rather than just 1 year in terms of starting to talk about the transition planning. And eventually we'd like to get that to 3 and then 4 years out, so that as soon as students are transitioning from traditional high school into those last 4 years, um, of having parents more educated about what those opportunities and resources are out there.
This is great, LaVoice. It's Bertrand. I just want to just a very quick comment because we still need to hear from the vendors. But I certainly understand prioritizing the upcoming graduates. You know, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm just concerned about the young people who have already graduated, who are currently not in any program, and in addition, the young people who don't have the waiver. You know, I talked to a parent of a child who graduated maybe 2 years ago, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you know, I've got to get out of the house. We've got to get her exercise. She needs friends." You know, it seems like this is a significant population, LaVoice, that we need to identify, we need to count, and we need to serve. And I think that this is an example of why we need a community engagement focal point. Because I'm talking with individuals about, wow, it'd be great if we had just an inclusive calendar, so that you don't have to check 3 or 4 websites to see where can I take my kid for yoga? Is there a book club? Where are they walking? But there would be one inclusive omnibus calendar that would particularly serve those who have already graduated and have not made the next step, and those who don't have waivers, who are not living independently, and who desperately need community. So,
Right.
LaVoice,
So-
let's put a flag there.
Yeah, so let me, right, so, but if I can speak to those areas real quickly, and then I'll turn it back over to Sherry. So one, prioritizing graduates does not mean that we're not considering, you know, other people that are home, not engaged and doing other things. And we're fortunate because we don't have many people in that boat. And some of it, Bertrand, which, you know, I have the privilege of having information on other sides of the coin. Some of that is choice in terms of people not being engaged in programs, of choice of being at home. The other thing, someone not having a waiver is not a barrier in Arlington County. Our county board has been more than generous and gracious in allowing us to continue to use local funds to support people during the transition. So that someone does not have a waiver has never been a barrier in Arlington County, and I don't anticipate that being a barrier in years to come. We are fortunate to be able to use local funds to support them until they either get a waiver, or even for people that aren't even eligible for the waiver wait list. And Arlington is unprecedented in that regards.
Thanks so much, LaVoice. We're gonna
The
have
other
to
thing that I
elevate some of
want to
these other
also
voices.
remind is self-directed services as well, because where community integration is concerned, particularly for people that don't have a waiver, that's something that we continuously offer. And to my surprise, we don't have nearly as many families taking advantage of that as well. But that's something that is also there. And I can talk self-directed services maybe next month when we have more time. But we also have a 1-pager for self-directed services as well.
Thanks, LaVoice. So just put
Sherry,
a flag
back
there,
to
because
you.
we will have to come back and revisit this topic. Thanks, Sherry.
LaVoice, are these handouts on the website anywhere, or are they available if Kelly
We're
wants?
working. We just actually had Delbria she's going to be a part of our website committee for the Aging and Disability Services Division. And so we're specifically looking at continuing to work on the developmental services website. So there is the goal, absolutely, of getting them all on the website, along with our application for services, of doing all of that. So they're not there yet, but it is in process of doing that. But I can send it out. So when we send out the minutes next month, we can send out the 1-pagers that we have electronically, our brochure, and do all of that to send that out.
Excellent, thank you. Patricia, I saw you pop up, open your camera when we were talking about schools. Did you have something you want to to share with us on that topic?
No, nothing that's been said. I was just here in case anyone had a question or wanted something directed to me, but just to sort of piggyback, I don't want to take any more time, but I think the partnership that we have started from the one pager to the tours, it's a great start. And I think it will only get better and stronger now that there's open communication. Our monthly meetings with DHS, that's been ongoing, but I find that they're very robust. Everybody's involved, so we all know what's happening. So it's really positive, and I want to continue on that. But if there's anything that's specific to schools that you feel like you want to address or something to bring up, any one of the transition coordinators is always open to discuss it, positive or negative. And to see how we can, work together to make improvements. But I think we're off to a great start, and you're always welcome to come to our school if you'd like to see anything or be a part of anything. So it's great. And I hope that legislation will move along in this direction too.
Thank you for so much for not only inviting us, but also continuing between the coordinators continuing to attend these meetings, so you can carry back what you're hearing from us.
I will.
And then one last, LaVoice, the job fair that you said that you want to do this year, is there a date for that?
So we're doing an employment fair, and we don't have a date yet. We're actually, Melissa, Bria, and I are meeting. I think on Friday we're actually our planning meeting, and we are looking, and we can get some input from you all, and you can send names later. But as we work on planning that, we would be delighted to have someone represent the DD committee on our planning efforts. So that would be great as we get into planning and moving that forward. We are looking at the spring of actually doing that, and then again in the fall.
Okay.
And it's not so much for employers to come and hire in terms of a traditional job fair, but as much as similar to what we did before, where we're looking definitely to have employers there and our employment services organizations, but really for employers to understand the people with developmental disabilities, their strengths, the opportunities, the services in place to support them with employment. If we certainly can make connections in terms of, anybody that comes and wants to hire someone, that's great, but that's not the primary focus or intent of the employment fair.
Okay,
But if anyone is interested in our planning
I'm
efforts,
interested in
let me
doing that,
know.
and then I'm interested in serving in that, and then Joe, I see your hand up. Is that a
Yeah, that
volunteer?
is. And then I had a question about something with that too, but go ahead, sorry.
Okay, Joe, what is your question?
One question is kind of on these employment, the employment fairs and kind of, and that can be another discussion, of course, for another time. But as especially George Mason has a autism program. Has there been any attempt to reach? Has anyone thought about reaching out to the college specifically on? Because I know they have partnered with on identifying what perhaps some difficulties that their college graduates with autism may be finding, and seeing if we can connect potential employers or identify potential employers that could be at those job fairs as well. But that I wonder if meeting some needs for those individuals who may be on the waivers might be a good idea as well. Just as there are people who are kind of, in this kind of odd, what you call it, like floating middle ground, per se, and tend not to be able to match all of the check marks where they can be placed very easily in a job. And since George Mason does have a very strong autism program, they may be a group that might be someone who may be able to identify some potential employer. I was just, just food for thought. I didn't know if that was something, because that is something I just wanted to mention, as I did work
So
last year with.
I can
Yeah.
tell you. Yeah, so Fairfax County CSB, I know that, and I don't have all the specifics, but with George Mason being more centrally located in that locality, I do know that they have some partnership and collaboration there, and I can explore that specifically on what Fairfax County CSB is doing. What I'm more interested in, and I've spoken with Del Bria, and this is part of some future outreach efforts, is for us to be able to support individuals at Northern Virginia Community College, particularly in Alexandria. One of the things that we've also seen a shift towards, which again I think is great, is not so much this year with any of our graduates, but in some of the years prior, of students that are going to Northern Virginia Community College, the Alexandria campus specifically, and are there ways that we can partner with them in terms of being able to support students on that campus, particularly and especially if any of them happen to be Arlington County students. That interests me because they're not as well resourced, say, as a George Mason University when it comes to working with students on the autism spectrum. So I think that there are more gaps in their educational supports for students on the autism spectrum. And so is that a gap that we might potentially be able to partner with them to fill in better supporting students on the particularly on the autism spectrum, but developmental disabilities in general?
Right. The only reason I mention that, and once again, is because a lot of it's I definitely know it can be tougher for individuals within those areas to find a job, because it's not like you can say here are the tasks that are in a job or the skills, and here where you fit. Especially when so I was definitely just curious if that was if that group would be, if those needs would be met, or if that was an interest area of for individuals with developmental disabilities who were in that area. That's all. Sorry.
So we don't have, Arlington does not have any students that are currently, that I'm aware of, that are at George Mason. We do, however, have students that are at Northern Virginia Community College.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, LaVoice. Finally, I don't believe we have any new business, but we do have time for vendor reports. So we'd love to hear from folks who are providing services to people in Arlington. Ginny, what you up to?
Hi, everybody. Is everybody's house still standing? So I don't know if everyone knows me, and so my mom actually used to be on the community services board, so it's really nice for me to be here today. I run a small private therapy practice. Our office is located in Clarendon, and we provide social and executive function coaching and therapy and some social groups. We're also a vendor for DARS under the CSS umbrella, Community Support Services. So we work with young adults out in the community, and we work on developing our social and executive function skills and the skills that we need before we can even, work with a job coach on the employment side. One of the really fun projects that I have been able to work on is I'm on the board of advisors for a really great company called Enabled Intelligence, and they are located in those really big tall buildings down off of Route 50, right past the Home Depot and the Target, right, on the border of Arlington and Falls Church. And they are employing they are annotate artificial intelligence and employ neurodiverse individuals. And so we have an occupational therapist from Social Grace who goes in to enabled intelligence once a week and provides occupational therapy. And I just actually had a in-person meeting with them last week, and they reported how great and helpful that's been, because they are really the premier company I have seen to date as far as workplace accommodations, hiring, neurodiverse individuals. If you don't know about enabled intelligence, I highly recommend you, go for a tour. They love giving tours. They are getting lots of grants and, not lots of grants. They're working on contracts so that they can employ even more individuals on the spectrum and other developmental disabilities. So just a phenomenal company in our area who are doing such great things. So I really hope that they get more contracts so that we can, they can grow even more. They just opened their skiff space, which is amazing. Just all the hoops they had to jump through just to open a skiff space, and they're helping their employees go through the security clearance. Just amazing. It's just been amazing. And they get to call me every week or every other week to problem solve and advocate and, learn. And they're just have been such an amazing organization to grow with and work with. So that's been one of the really fun projects that Social Grace gets to work on. And then, so Social Grace is also a partner with our Stomping Ground, and we continue to provide, monthly and weekly just support. And then honestly, what's great is that every time we, get a client, whether just through our website or word of mouth, pretty much everything we do in our community is word of mouth. We really don't advertise. Probably need to step that up just so it looks better, but I just don't have time right now. Is we are sending everybody to our Stomping Ground. I'm just so thankful for our Stomping Ground, for all the work that everybody's doing and I really think everybody in this call needs to get on board with, knowing what's on the event calendar. I feel like everyone I go and talk to in the community, I was getting groceries the other day at a grocery store, and I invited the person checking me out to some of the events at our Stomping Ground, and saw an old student of mine from working in the school system at Home Goods. And I said, and I found out, of course, that he has nothing going on other than working on Home Goods. And I said, you need to join our Stomping Ground and get out. And we've got lots of events. So there is just so much for everybody to get involved in. I think we really do need, everybody just needs to get more involved, and everybody should be talking about our Stomping Ground. It should be even bigger than it. I know that it's growing, but it's just such an amazing resource that we have in Arlington County. So I'm so proud of the work that all of you have done. Bertra, Donna, amazing work. So anyway, so that's just a little recap of what our partnership with our Stomping Ground. We've got enabled intelligence. It is our goal that Social Grace is the premier feeder for enabled intelligence. So we are going to work on a program where we can, develop. To be honest, after being in the meeting last week, the thing that keeps coming up is social. It's like that social piece in the workplace, and how to give feedback, how to accept feedback. So that is something that Social Grace has really worked on, that communication piece with enabled intelligence. So that's something that we're going to continue to find innovative ways to give and receive feedback. I mean, nobody wants to, it's hard, right? But it's something that we really are passionate about. And advocating for, and developing tools and strategies around that. So that social and executive function piece we keep working on. So I'm trying to think of anything else. I feel like there's always another group or things. We just launched our winter groups, and then something Social Grace is doing now is we're trying to be mindful of doing really small little groups at Social Grace, like in our office space. We've expanded within our offices, actually right on the Clarendon Metro as well, which is really exciting. So we're offering more social groups. And then at Social Grace, we offer a free monthly meetup for our teens as well. So that's something that we're doing, just trying to provide more social opportunities. And we also have our Get Out of the House groups, our famous Get Out of the House groups that we run throughout the summer. And we're also doing them throughout the school year on holidays. Thank you, Josue, for that OSG calendar, and thank you for all the work that you're doing as well. And yeah, so that's kind of where we are. I feel like, you know, we're just kind of staying focused on, you know, these projects, and there's more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Josue put the events calendar for Stomping Ground. Jen, if you want to put your website information in the chat, that's great.
Oh,
but
one more
with
thing.
that segue,
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, sorry. The last thing, the second Wednesday of every month, so tomorrow night, is our free parent support group. And we actually have Ashley Africa from the ARC of Northern Virginia coming to showcase the ARC to Independence app for any parents that want to come. So that is tomorrow night from 7 to 8 virtually.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So segue
Jenny, do
to.
you have a link for that you can put in the chat?
Sure.
Thanks.
And then Lucy would also share this, but the ARC has numerous opportunities to learn about the app. So you can also go to Lucy if you want to stick the ARC's website also about that. But the segue to Stomping Ground, I don't know, Josue or Margot or Donna, anyone want to give us an update?
I should say one of the exciting things that happened this week is that we had a group home at Gillian Place Monday for their AFAC food distribution and the person doing their programming, and they were so excited to see us. They said, you know, we haven't done any programming in about 5 or 6 weeks. We need to start coming to these. So that idea that we're really going to be able to start, it'll be great with, you know, the South Irving house, but there's a large house that's right near her. We have enough houses that are group homes that we're really excited about being able to do, making some of their life more inclusive and a lot of free programming. Sorry, I had to jump in. That was so exciting yesterday. Sorry, Margot, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to talk about a few new programs that we've just started up in the last month. At the Waypoint, we have a Waypoint Wednesday. So every Wednesday night, we do something cool together. I think the first one we did was a campfire, which was perfect for the solstice. And we have a bunch of new movement programs at Cadence. We have yoga classes, a mindful movement class that's at the end of the day so that people can relax and breathe and stretch before they go to bed. And then we also have a theater and movement improvisation class. So if you have folks that are really interested in moving and moving with imaginative capacity or intrigue, whatever that might be for them, definitely check out the events calendar and the Cadence site. If you don't know where Cadence is, it's essentially at the intersection of Glebe and 50. I'm saying that right, aren't I, Josue, Donna? So
Close
it's
to George Mason too.
George Mason. Oh, one of the campuses, yeah. So we're continuing to expand our programming because what we're hearing from the group is we love to eat dinner together, but we are all on a shoestring. Oh, well then let's do potlucks. Let's do very inexpensive dinner nights together at our OSG supported apartment buildings. Really using the resources at each apartment building to maximum capacity and finding that circle of partners in the neighborhood that are doing cool things, and we can do things together so that we're not having to create an insular community and keep engaging with this small group, but there's this constant looping out that just makes the whole community across Northern Virginia more connected. So thank you to people like Ginny, who's been a part of that for so long. And I commend the OSG programming staff like Josue and Anna for just continuing to think, what are people asking for? What are people asking for? What's missing? And we find a way to make that happen.
Great. So Donna Monig said that the ARC also provides the travel training opportunities. Lenny, let me see. There's someone who didn't introduce herself, and she has a lot of initials after her name. I don't know if she's still here. Let's see if I can see. Leslie Meyer, Reeers, are you a provider? We don't know. And then
Hey,
Amanda,
Sherry.
okay,
Sherry,
go ahead.
Lucia.
Yes.
I think that might be Lee Meyer's dad. His name is Leslie Meyer. I don't know if that might be the same. It could be a man too.
Okay. But that person's not speaking up as a provider. And then Amanda, do you have an update from ServiceSource?
Hello, everyone. I can just definitely piggyback on what LaVoice shared because we did meet with LaVoice this morning to talk a little bit about the programs. We something fun that I have to share about Weaves is we had an amazing month of sales for our Weavers. It was fabulous. So thanks for everybody who, maybe took part in some shopping because we are going to have some very happy Weavers when they're receiving their checks. So I'm very excited to share that. And then to piggyback off, like I said, off of LaVoice, yes, we have opened up the Employment Access Program. We have 4 people who have started, and we have a 5th who will be transferring from actually another site at ServiceSource, and now he's transferring to a site in Arlington. So we're excited about that. We have a number of assessments scheduled, so we're just continuing to move forward with processing applications and providing assessments for that program. So we're very excited about that. And regarding the CIC, we are pushing forward as well with the community part of the program. And like LaVoice mentioned, we are already identifying some folks who are currently in the program that would really benefit from that added community involvement. Some of them are already enjoying a lot of community integration right now, and this is something that they want to continue to pursue and even add more of that in. So some of those folks will likely, we're working on kind of transitioning them into that program, which will open up more slots for other individuals who need placement at the CIC.
Right.
So lots of good things going on.
Thank you, Amanda. Santija, is there anything from CRI you want to share?
Update from CRI, actually. No updates, basically.
Do you have anything you'd like to share about an update?
No, we don't really have any updates. I mean, the clients are well taken care of. I mean, basically, we have no current updates.
Great. Well, at that, I think we got to the end of the agenda, and you have.
Is MPLA still on the call?
I don't see her.
No, Michelle was. Oh, so she might have jumped off already then.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't see her. So at that, you have 2 more minutes to go do something fun. And thank you for, I'm so glad we didn't meet in person because I hear that they're closing the roads and they're canceling county services. So good call, Maimuna. And we will see you next month for a regular meeting. The Listen and Learn is postponed until March.
Right.
So thank you so much for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Stay safe, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Donna.